everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I am your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about, oh my gosh, this terrible story. There's a school in California, and I suppose it goes more than what we think, but and beyond this particular school, but there are teachers recruiting kids into their equity clubs or quality clubs, but they're really like specific gay clubs, and they do that, and some of them are trying to affirm or convince kids that they are trans. And so there's one particular couple who say that two teachers convinced their 12-year-old that they were trans. They changed their pronouns and names and stuff at school without the parents being notified, and then they called the parents up to the school, told them their daughter was a boy, and then called CPS on them because they wouldn't affirm their identity. So and Abigail Schreier, who wrote Irreversible Damage about the transgender movement and the sort of the craze that was affecting young women, she wrote some time ago, after there was some leaked audio at this California conference, that the teachers were recruiting kids into it, and that they actually have, these activist teachers have methods to get your kids to believe that they are something beyond a boy or just a girl. So we're going to be talking about that today. I think it's a pretty important story, so it probably won't be the only time we talk about it. We're going to touch a little bit, at least, on it today, and I have a few clips of the parents. There was a big meeting the other day, and parents were giving their 2 cents. I also want to talk about COVID, because people are still freaking out. It seems like people want to forever freak out. The CEO of Southwest admitted that the air on the airplanes, which people have known because airplanes aren't super spreaders, and haven't been, that it's like the safest place to really be, because I mean the filtration on the airplane is just superior to everywhere you go. You're more likely to catch COVID home huddled in with your family than you are going into an airplane, yet they make everyone wear masks. So even though they have science and whatnot, and there haven't been outbreaks, you still hear people like, I wouldn't feel comfortable if I got on a plane and someone was next to me and they weren't wearing their mask, because you're a delusional person who's extraordinarily hysterical. That is the reason why. That is the reason why. It's not scientific. It's not driven in any sort of data. So particularly Morning Joe anchors were just like, oh, I know what to do. So, and then also I want to touch on the Elon Musk feud with Senator Warren, and then Joy Reid piped up a little bit, and he clapped back at her too. So I want to talk about that too briefly. But before we jump into anything, I do want to thank Brighter Michigan PAC. I'm in their studio again today. So if I say anything that triggers you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. I'm just using the space, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate having the opportunity to be in the studio and spread conservative ideas. So it's a good organization who cares about conservative values. So I thank them for the opportunity to be in the studio. But there's no one to fire me because I triggered you, because I hurt your feelings. You're just going to have to scroll elsewhere, or just learn to deal with differing opinions, because I got free reign. It's my thing. So thank you, Brighter Michigan PAC. Please visit blacktnews.com to check out different articles that I've written on different subjects and different topics. And I'm totally going to mention the Blue's Clues thing today. If you're unaware, some time ago I put out a video. I guess between all the platforms it was on, it probably got about 1 million, maybe, because it was close to 400,000 views on TikTok, which I got to be honest, I'm still surprised that it's up. Because people are just really, really touchy about those issues on the app. And also on Facebook, it got like over maybe close to about 600,000 views on that app. So, talking about Blue's Clues and how they have like trans stuff on there. So, I wrote a pretty big article about people's reactions to it. And this story that we're going to cover today reaffirms, in my opinion, that there are people out there trying to indoctrinate your kids, but I don't think I had to tell you that, but there's just like evidence and some parents beginning to speak out. Probably because of some of the things that Abigail Schreier wrote about and other people elevating her platform and having conversations. So parents should not be afraid to stick up for their kids. And I think there's going to be some harsh realities that parents are going to have to face, which we'll get to that in a minute. But you can check out different articles that I've written on my website and please share them around. If you like what I do, please consider going to blackteennews.com/donate and leaving a gift. You can do something small, 10, 20, 50, 100, whatever you want to do. I greatly appreciate it. But if you want to help continue growing this platform, which we've made some leaps and bounds and strides this year, and I really appreciate it, you can do your part on blackteennews.com/donate. I also appreciate everyone who shares these lives. You're watching, go ahead and share this live right now. You invite other people to watch, invite other people to the page. You can always do that through your friends list. Make sure that you're hitting notification bells. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The only one that's different out of my handles, all my handles are at Black Tea News, except on Twitter, and that one is at True Black Tea. But if you go to blackteennews.com, you'll find all of my social media handles, so you can follow me everywhere. You can sign up for email and whatnot, and make sure that you're following. So before we jump into it, I also want to encourage you, we got different stuff on the store that you can also pick out as well. And I also have different books that I write as well that are similar. I have one nonfiction faith book, and the rest are various genres. This is my historical fiction fantasy book. I've also got children's books. I talk about Super Kid a lot. Some of you have gotten these books and told me that your kids have really liked them. I appreciate that. I hope that you guys, well, let me encourage you guys, if your kids liked it, please consider going on Amazon and leaving a review. A lot of people read and then they don't go ahead and go the extra mile, but it helps other people decide when they want to purchase it. So if your kid said, hey, I really enjoyed that, or if they said, hey, I thought that book was really epic, or I love that part when Kiara punched that bully in the face or something, I guess you don't have to give too many spoilers, but you can go ahead and just consider leaving a review. Even if you just say something like, my kid loved it, I'm sure your kid will love it too. That's a great review. So go ahead and leave a review on Amazon. You can find the link for all that on blackteennews.com when you hit the merchandise button. So funny thing of the day. So Elon Musk, and we got to talk about the funny thing before we get to the utterly infuriating thing. I did tease on Facebook that I was starting late and it was going to be a little infuriating because I was getting some slides and stuff together. So Elon Musk is annoyed with, seems a little annoyed. He's a person of the year, by the way. He got person of the year, which this year I felt was worthy, you know. Last year Joe Biden won, but he couldn't win by himself. It had to be Biden and Kamala, which I'm like, well, first of all, Trump totally should have won anyway, because the whole year, love him or hate him, the whole world like revolved around the man. The whole man, the whole world. Whether you love someone, you could ruin relationships over Trump. Like, oh, you like Trump? I'll never speak to you again, mother. It's like, how did this happen? So anyway, he should have been person of the year, just my opinion. But they had Biden and Kamala last year, but this year Elon Musk, you know, Tesla is a hot company. He's extraordinarily rich, has his eyes set on the planet and far off into the reaches of space. So Senator Warren thinks he's a freeloader. And so he said, I'm going to pay more taxes than any person ever this year. And he called her Senator Karen. And he said, I hope you don't call the manager. So then Joy Reid went on her show and I guess she has a segment called The Absolute Worst. And she named him the absolute worst, accused him of appropriating Black culture by calling her a Karen, which isn't everybody calling people Karens? Like, that's not something I would deem as exclusively Black. I didn't get the memo on that. I didn't know we were gatekeeping Karen like that. But if we're going to talk about appropriation, she is Senator Pocahontas, So there's that. And so he said she was a joy. He called her Joyless Reed, and he had some other words for for Joy Reid. Called her a lobbyist for Senator Karen, in other tweets. So the funny meme I had was this: the Right to Bear memes posted it, and you've probably seen this reiteration of like the woman who's yelling, someone's holding the back and it's a cat. So they just reimposed all that. And of course, Musk is the cat just looking at the crazy ladies yelling at him, being so upset. But that I thought that was a good meme when I saw that today on Twitter. I was like, that's the winner. That's the one for today. So I find it fascinating. I think I know they feel all big and bad because they got to go in this Senate, but Elon is really the man of the time right now, not just on the magazine, but just with all the things that he's been able to accomplish. They probably also do not like that he said we should just kill the Build Back Better bill. And he was in an interview and they said, well, what about them? They want to give subsidies and stuff. They want to help you green energy, do like charging stations. And he's like, no one needs that for gas stations. He's like, we don't need it. He's like, no one at Tesla is excited about it. He's like, I would just get rid of it, delete it, get rid of it. And he said, he said, I would get rid of all subsidies. So they probably didn't like that. They're still mad about Senator Joe Manchin not just bowing down and allowing the bill to pass. There was a headline, maybe I saw it yesterday, about how one man is thwarting an entire presidency. If that's really dramatic, a really dramatic way to put it. Manchin realizes they're lying a lot about the stuff in the bill. They definitely lied about how much it was going to cost, because they said it was going to cost nothing, which wasn't true. Obviously was never true. That's a never true thing when people say that, by the way. Never a true thing when people say that. But also he has his constituents, that would definitely hate that. So if it was something that was actually going to be good for people, like across the board, you wouldn't just have like a 50-50 split and not quite being able to get where you need to go because of one Democrat. Right? You could have one person cross over from the Senate, one of the more liberal Republicans, if you were really doing something that outstanding. But they're at the point where where there's a lot of people on their side willing to vote for something that is awful, but they can't get the one person who votes with them lockstep a lot of the time, but it's so awful they can't push Joe Manchin into it. And maybe they should just take them seriously and change some of the stuff, or just write a whole darn new bill. Because the truth is that they never want to push precisely what they say. There's always some kind of thing that's between the lines that helps causes they want, but it doesn't help the American people. So this is a bill that people get shafted a lot. And as Elon said, they don't need the their friends. They have a lot of friends who are into that stuff. Granholm was the energy secretary, former governor of Michigan, presiding over the lost decade. So it really sucks that she's our energy secretary. She had to end up separating herself from an energy company, like Green Company, because Biden was like there, I think, online doing stuff for them. and she had to sell a lot of money but it seemed like she was profiting or was going to be profiting off of some of the things that they were pushing. So Nancy Pelosi, the other day, they asked her if senators, Congress people, and their families should be able to just trade willy-nilly with the stock market, and she said it's a free market. We should be able to do it. It's a free market economy. But you guys are the ones who make legislation and know when you're about to pass legislation, and you guys get lobbied by different companies to pass legislation, and then you know what stuff's going to happen before stuff goes down, and then you can trade or you can buy stock here or there, and you make a windfall of money, and you can be the cause of someone else losing a lot of money. So there's all this manipulation there. So you can believe that It's free market, so everyone should be able to do whatever. But from an ethics standpoint, hmm, hmm, come on, ma'am. Come on, ma'am. Maybe we should do play a game. What if Trump said it? Or what if Trump was, you know, she they were always like, is Ivanka profiting off of her fashion line that she designed? So these people are sick. So anyway, let's talk about some more sick people. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. So in California, um and the Epoch Times reported this story. Abigail Schreier some months ago, maybe not, when was it? Oh no, not some months ago, just last month, wrote a report on how activist teachers recruit kids, and there was some leaked audio that she got a hold of, and that she did confirm through some people that it was real. And she wrote about how teachers have different tactics to recruit kids until, like, the LGBT lifestyle, LGBT clubs, and whatnot. And so Epoch Times wrote a story about in a school. There was a parent who said that the school recruited their child, their 12-year-old, convinced them that they were trans, gave them a different name, gave them different pronouns, and brought them to the school, told them that they were trans now, and when they didn't refer to them the right pronouns, CPS was called on them, and the child ended up suicidal. And so I'm going to show you guys a video where the mom is furious. There's audio of the dad, but it was kind of messed up. So I'm not going to play that one. But he talked about how they called CPS on him, and then there was another parent who was talking about how they try to recruit kids in this school. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video of the mother. It's pretty heartbreaking, and the audio is brought to you by Libs of TikTok, which is a if you're not following Libs of TikTok on I don't know if they have a Twitter page, a TikTok page. I've never seen them on TikTok, but they go around and they find videos of people on TikTok, and then they post it, like super left wing stuff. Sometimes I go through their page to pick out different stuff for my shows, but they also find other videos and post stuff online. I think, and then they're actually now getting traction and invited. They had their first like Fox interview like a week ago, but their videos are on this page, and so appreciate of everyone who draws light to this stuff.
Let these teachers come in and act as if they have nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong. A mistake? How long of a mistake? How many mistakes are we going to take before my child almost lost her life? They didn't tell me that my child was suicidal. You allowed these teachers to open their classrooms teaching predatory information to a young child, a mindful child that doesn't even know how to comprehend it all. How do you not know what was going on your own campuses? Did you think that no parent would ever come forward? You will not quiet me today. I will stand here today and protect my child along with every other child who has not come forward yet. Do they have psychiatry degrees that I was unaware of? Because I didn't hire them. Okay, I did not hire them to sit there and nitpick my child's brain. You took away my ability to parent my child, even before I had any knowledge. I didn't even get to show support. You asked for support, I didn't get a chance. You planted seeds, Ms. Caldera and Ms. Baraki, Mr. Baraki and you, Ms. Pagarin. Your job was to educate my child in math, science, English, etc. Do your job and let me do mine. They assumed that my child needed your aid and resources. They pushed it in the face. And tonight, I will stick up for her. Miss Caldera, you're guilty. Miss Baraki, you're guilty. You changed her personal documentation, her gender, her name, her email. I authorized an AKA added to her attendance because I wanted to be supportive. But guess what? She's allergic to bees. Her medical record says a birth name, and you changed it. Who administers that now? Not everything, not me. You guys did this on your own accountability, and you've gone too far. They downgraded me in front of my child and allowed me to question myself as a mother. You sat there and told me how my child was going to be. And then you wrapped your hands around her while I sat across the table and cried. because you thought you could be there better than I, and I never got a chance. She was scared to even say anything. Your guys' voice were heard, not hers.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking story. And I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation. I'm glad that the parents are showing up, that they're upset, that they're raising heck, that they want to hold people accountable. I hope people will be fired and let go, and that these schools will restructure, but it's a pretty big conspiracy right now. And I think parents need to really consider, why do you send your kids to public schools or in some private schools too, but your kids, one way or another, are your responsibility, and you entrust stu- teachers and officials to look after your kids and to help also nurture them, and you want them to teach them certain things, but you do have to entrust other people. And there's some people who want to I don't even know if I want to say do them harm, because in their worldview, now there's some people who are blatantly and maliciously predatory, but there's some people who are just predatory because they believe that they are teaching the kids something righteous. And a lot of people just do not respect your authority as a parent. When they call CPS on you because you won't reaffirm the gender identity that they convinced the child to have, that's way crossing the line. Way crossing the line. The reason why I said I was going to probably mention the Blues Clues video again, for those of you who don't know, Blues Clues had an episode. Well, I don't even know if they actually ended up playing this on Nick Jr. at all, but they have it on YouTube video, which kids watch stuff online all the time on YouTube. They scroll through YouTube. So, my opinion, they made it. It's still just as bad. And they did have a commercial with a drag queen just playing in Nickelodeon singing "Fill Them with Pride" anyway. So we know where Nickelodeon is. But with Nick Jr. and Blues Clues, they had an alphabet book, and they had P for Pride, and they had different flags. For transgender, there wasn't a map flag. So many people thought there was a map flag. There wasn't a map flag. There was transgender. There was asexual, but the only flag I mentioned was pansexual, because I wanted to be as least controversial as possible. And if you're pansexual, you have no sexual limitations. People got mad when I defined it that way, but that's what it is. People say, well, we love people beyond their bodies. I'm like, then sing about friendship. You don't need to have a pansexual flag. So I mentioned that, and I also mentioned they had this other video where a drag queen led a pride parade, and they had all kinds of different families, but the only family they left out was a family of a mom and a dad and their kids, like a the nuclear sort of traditional family. They didn't have them in their. They had 10 different representations, but they never got to that one. And the closest they had was just like some allies, but they weren't a family per se, I would guess. So I talked about that, brought that to a lot of people's attention. The people thanked me, but there were a lot of people who got really upset. And most of those people got upset were people who, there's a lot of young kids who were trans, or people who were pansexual. And I said, you guys are taking this way too personal. I said, the problem with this is that there's people out there in the world, which Nickelodeon is one of those groups, that believe it's their responsibility to supersede parents because they think they're dumb, conservative hicks, and they're not forward thinking enough. They're too intolerant, and they are the great ones who can teach your kids to be accepting and loving of all this kind of stuff, to explore their bodies and to feel all this kind of whatever, that maybe if the person isn't trans, that maybe there's a chance they could be trans, so they can reach out to that person and just let them know, hey, if you maybe think that you're a boy and you're a girl, but you maybe think that you're a boy for like 2 seconds, then maybe we should explore that a little bit. Even though most people who have gender dysphoria generally grow out of it. Again, Blues Clues' age is preschool. It's like 3 to 5. I guess there's kids who are older who watch that, but that's like the age range. And so really that's the problem. Really that's the problem. People are like, it's just about being accepting. No, people have goals that are beyond that. They have goals that are beyond that. There was a choir, a gay man's choir in San Francisco that got blasted during Pride Month because they came out with a song that was literally the lyrics were "We're coming for your children," and then they tried to say it's just a joke, like "We'll convert your children." If you're, how you can convert someone if they're born that way? What do you plan to do? What do you plan to do? So it's in the cartoons, it's in your schools, and then there's activist teachers out there who are trying to indoctrinate your kids too. So people were mad at me, but I was on to something. I was on to something. Let me play you another parent who was really upset.
Father of 3 kids that went through Spreckles Elementary in Buena Vista. I thank you all for your time and attention tonight to this issue. This is not easy to talk about. These were teachers that we knew and supported in the classroom, and their actions have gone too far. They've used predatory tactics to push political activism on our school grounds to our children. How do I know they're predatory? As a volunteer in youth activities, you go through a lot of training. They train us exactly what to look for. You look for people that use their power of position or authority, which teachers in a school environment are in a power of position and authority. They single kids out. They look for kids that don't fit or different or need attention. They did internet searches, they listened to conversations, and they looked for kids that were different. And they exploited them. They gave kids extra attention. They gave personal invitations to their club. That was the extra attention they needed. They allowed kids to do things maybe that their parents weren't particularly supportive of. Lastly, they withheld information from parents, and they created a system that didn't allow parents to check in on things. There's a lot of questions to ask. I'll send an email because there's a lot of questions. There's a history here. The board probably needs to be part of the investigation, not overseeing the investigation, but part of it to find out what was been corresponded in the past. Mr. Tarallo has a history here at these campuses. He probably needs to be part of it as well, and Mrs. Spagarin. The real issue is the 2 teachers, but the whole thing needs to be looked at. Unfortunately, Ms. Caldera and Ms. Baraki showed their inability to control their personal political agendas. This proves that there's no place for either of these 2 on school campuses. I think the state board needs to determine whether they should be teachers.
So, they are targeting kids, and they do have different methods. And like I said, Abigail Schreier, she wrote a book, Irreversible Damage, and she's not an anti-LGBT person at all, but she had parents that came to her that were distraught about their daughter who was swept up in the trans ideology, and they're like, we know our daughter, it just doesn't seem like this really fits for her. And so she interviewed them and other people, and she tried to get other people to write the story. No one else would touch it. So she wrote the book because she believed it was true, and she just wanted to cover how she said there's a social contagion to this. And I believe it. I think it's pretty evident. And she's laid it out in a lot of different interviews, and I've played them on here before. But not only is there a social contagion, and she said normally a lot of these girls who would have maybe different kind of issues, or they'd be depressed, or maybe they do things like bulimia, cutting, or other stuff like that. Instead of doing those things, they would move on to being trans. And women in particular, they will congregate with each other, and they feel each other. They're very empathic. And you'll see a lot of depressed girls who will hang around other depressed girls. One of my sisters, she went through a period of depression in her life, and she admitted she said this in church one day, so I at a visiting church. Well, she was preaching at a way church, so I don't think she'd mind me mentioning this. But she said she would hang around other depressed kids. Now she knew that she probably should have hung around the Christian kids and got some joy. But she sometimes when you're in your feelings, you want to feel those in your feelings, even though you don't. At the same time, you don't want to. Sometimes you want to be wrapped up in it, I guess, and other women will congregate. I saw this one TikTok of all these young girls, and they're all trans, and I'm talking about like teenagers. And then one of them announced, like, I'm a boy, and they all start clapping and yelling. And I'm like, this is weird. This is weird. So there's a social contagion element, but there's people who actually go out and are trying to recruit your kids. And unfortunately, some of these people are teachers. So this is a little bit of the article that Abigail Schreier wrote last month, and she has it on her Substack. And she obtained leaked audio from the California's Teachers Association. They held a conference advising teachers on best practices for subverting parents, conservative communities, and school principals. Even the principals aren't in on it. Some of them probably are, but they even want to go around the principals. On issues of gender identity and sexual orientation, speakers went so far as to tout their surveillance of students' Google searches, internet activity, and hallway conversations in order to target sixth graders for personal invitations to LGBTQ clubs, while actively concealing these clubs' membership rolls from participants' parents. Documents and audio files recently sent to me and authenticated by 3 conference participants permitted a rare insight into CTA's sold-out event in Palm Springs, held from October 29-31, 2021. The 2001 LGBTQ plus issues conference, Beyond the Binary, Identity and Imagining Possibilities, provided best practices workshops that encourage teachers to have the courage to create a safe environment that fosters bravery to explore sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, according to the talks by 5th grade teacher C. Scott Miller. Several of the workshops advised teachers on the creation of middle school LGBTQ clubs, commonly known as Gay Straight Alliance Clubs, or GSA. So out on the lookout for that stuff, parents. One workshop, Queering in the Middle, focused on what practices have worked for successful middle school GSAs and children at this age developmentally. But what makes for a successful LGBTQ middle school club? What do you do about middle-some parents who don't want their middle schoolers participating in such a club? What if parents ask about club leader point blank if their child is a member? Because we are not official, we have no club rosters, we keep no records. Buena Vista Middle School teacher and LGBTQ club leader Lori Caldera, who's one of those parent teachers that they talked about, states on an audio clip sent to me by a conference attendee. In fact, sometimes we don't really want to keep records, because if parents get upset that their kids are, because what if parents get upset that their kids are coming? We're like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they came. We would never want a kid to get in trouble for attending if their parents are upset. I wish somebody would. I don't know what I'd do if I was, but I would never put my kid in a I'd school. I guess I would homeschool all the way. Homeschool all the way. And I know it's tough, because there's some parents who feel like their kid being there contributes to the environment. They're building world leaders and it'll help other people around them. And even like having conversations with other Christians, like that should be their mission field too. But kids being in the school, my dad, his high school was definitely his mission field, and he was sold out, and we did that part. I graduated from public school. I liked my school that I graduated from, to be honest. And I had a few teachers who were obviously left and I pushed back on things, but it's different now, I think. From what I hear, I think it's pretty different now today than it was when I graduated 07 and from high school. So So even though I understand parents feeling that way and children feeling that way, um, at the end of the day, it is up to you to protect your kids, and as you gotta pray about that. But I have no intention, but you have to know what's going on. You have to know what's going on. Trust no one, and you want to be able to trust these parents, and to these teachers. You want to like think of movies like Lean on Me, where like the teacher can make all the difference in the world to the kids. I think that movie's Lean on Me, where they use a song. I don't know. Any of these after school specials things with a teacher is an influence to the kid's life. We want to believe in that. And there's a lot of great teachers still out there. There's teachers that I love. There's teachers I did not like, but a lot of them I really loved. But I think the world is different today. The advice to those who run middle school LGBTQ clubs is keep no records so you can plead ignorance of the membership of the members' parents. In fact, middle school teacher Kelly Baraki can be heard in the same session describing having named her club the Equity Club and then UBU rather than more ubiquitous GSA. Hmm. But I heard a couple years ago, my friend was talking about they had heard audio or something of a club that was supposed to be like I think it was supposed to be like maybe a sex education kind of thing. That was I guess it wouldn't have been a club, but it was supposed to be something I was teaching kids, and it was just really like LGBT propaganda stuff. Even BLM. Some years ago, a friend of my sister's went to a BLM meeting, and that's all they talked about. They didn't even talk about police brutality. Um, Caldera and Baraki, both middle school teachers, led a workshop titled How We Run GSA in Conservative Communities. So they blatantly know. They blatantly know what parents wouldn't be cool with it. They set up camp in your backyard. In your backyard. The audio recording of their lecture was sent to me by conference attendee. In that address, the speakers described challenges for activist teachers working in the context of a politically mixed community in Central California with many conservative parents. The teacher leaders of the LGBTQ club apparently faced a constant problem: how to keep middle school kids from come. Well, let me. Well, they say that they have a problem with some kids coming back. Let me skip over that and go to a couple quotes. Uh, So we started to brainstorm at the end of 2020 school year. What are we going to do? We got to see some kids in person at the end of the last year, not many, but a few. So we started to try and identify kids. When we were doing our virtual learning, we totally stalked what they were doing on Google when they weren't doing schoolwork. One of them was Googling Trans Day of Visibility, and we're like, check. We're going to invite that kid when we get back on campus. Whenever they follow Google Doodle links or whatever, right? We make note of those kids and the things that they bring up with each other in chats and email or whatever. Baraki can be heard to say, beyond electronic surveillance of kids' internet use, we use our observations of kids in the classroom, conversations that we hear, to personally invite students, because that's really the way we kind of get the bodies in the door, right? They need the sort of little bit of invitation. And here's one. I'm the teacher who runs morning announcements. Caldera can be heard to volunteer. That's another type of strategy I can give you. I'm the one who controls the messaging. Everybody says, "Oh, Miss Caldera, you're so sweet. You volunteered to do that." Of course, I am so sweet that I volunteered to do that, because then I control the information that goes home. And for the first time this year, students have been allowed to put openly LGBT content into their morning announcement slides. So, um, Here's a little more. Let me assure you that the presentation that we gave was 100% age appropriate, literally definitions. If someone is gay, it is a man who is attracted to another man, right? If someone is a lesbian, it is a female attracted to another female. Literally gave them definitions. We also covered religious differences, race, cultural backgrounds, family status, poverty, everything that is listed on the Parents' Rights Handbook we covered. That is not what kids went home and told their parents, though, Caldera said. So they have plans to continue getting into the heads of different sixth graders. And the article goes on. I'll post it on my social media, but it's pretty disturbing stuff. Now they said that they stalk different students' Google and search history and other kind of stuff like that. One of the teachers, Brocky, is the district technology coordinator. So that's interesting. That's interesting. So very interesting. So it's gross. Let me show you some of these slides that they have. Gender unicorn is one that they had. These aren't properly fitted, but they have stuff that shows different meanings, different terms. It's not just there's so many. It's not just gay, straight. There's in queer. There's even questioning. That's a part of it. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. They talk about Prism Club. This is one. So these are some of the slides that they have. A lot of stuff about, you know what's so weird to me about all this stuff is that when I was in high school and middle school and stuff, now obviously there are kids who dated. Now a lot of people tried to push back on the blue school thing, like, you guys care, what about heterosexual couples? And I'm just like, when I was in high school, like, they didn't even want you to do like PDAs, public displays of affection. Like, the most you could do was hold hands. Like, you weren't supposed to be kissing and stuff. And when I was in high school, I don't know what these rabbits are doing nowadays. But when I was in high school, yeah, there are people who would maybe like smooch or something in the hallway. But from my understanding, like in middle school and stuff, that was supposed to be something that was like frowned upon, you know? So again, I don't know what people are like these days. I just don't think the hypersexualization of our world with any sort of gender, which there's only two, is good for our society at all. I remember being a kid and I went to the post office, and man, there was a guy and a girl. They were going at it, and my dad was so upset. I was in the car, and I don't know how many of my other sisters were there. I was probably the oldest in the car, but maybe my sister Sabrina and maybe Angeline was in there too. I don't know. But he got so mad. He went out the car and like banged on their door. And he's like, "Hey, I got kids in the car." So there's some things that you expect to go to the office, the post office, pick up your mail. You don't expect your kids to get a little show of two people getting hot and heavy in the front seat of the car. Okay? And then they were so embarrassed. They're like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry," adjusting, their clothes or whatever that was going on. Because they were embarrassed. or maybe they weren't embarrassed so they got caught, I guess. But my dad was bold enough to embarrass them. My dad was bold enough to embarrass them. Because that sort of display wasn't appropriate for just out in front of the post office. Especially if you got your kids in the car. So this hypersexualization of the world that we have, I don't think we're a better society because they decided that men were tramps and the best thing for women were to make women tramps too. I don't think that's best for our society. I don't think we've benefited from it. I think we have a lot more heartbroken women We have men that don't know how to be men that don't know how to set roots and take care of anything. We have women who will engage with losers who don't want to build anything. And then they just mess around until they're older and they're like, well, I can't find a good man because you've been messing around with these losers your whole life. And maybe you aborted some, and maybe you have a bunch of kids and you're not married, and now you can't find nobody who's good for you, and people who are mature or whatever want a little young thing now. It's just another sad story for Kevin Samuels to hit the danger zone button on his broadcast. We are not better for just sexualizing ourselves in every sort of way. Not just any sort of way. For just straight people. So now you're introducing all this gender identity and ideology to kids who normally, hit the button, who normally just phase out of this stuff. But now, if there's a tomboy, people start introducing ideas like maybe they're a boy. Because they like jeans and want to wear a backwards hat and loose clothing. My sister, Angelina, who I mentioned earlier, she always said, I don't want to be a girly girl. I'm not going to be a girly girl. I'm not going to be a girly girl. She liked bugs and fighting, and, she said she was a little bit of a bully. I don't know how deep that was. But she liked baggy clothes, big tees. She just wasn't into the stuff. She liked to gross us out on purpose. We're like, we don't want to talk to you. Like, talking about boogers and poop and, like, shut up. She just liked being different. And eventually she started liking some boys, and then her clothes got not tight, like provocative, but just a little, they weren't just big white t-shirts anymore. She started doing her hair a little different, started putting on some lip gloss, whatnot. And now she's the one who's married, got 3 beautiful babies. She's pregnant, gonna have a baby in February. We don't know the official name. I know the leaked name that her husband kind of spilled the beads on, but who knows if that's the name. So I'm looking forward to the little baby, the little 4th one. But if she grew up in today's world, I think there'd be people who would try to convince her to go a particular way. And I've heard a lot of women say, I'm glad I grew up in the time that I did, because I was a tomboy, and you have all kinds of feelings and emotions as a teenager, especially a young teenager. And if people try to convince them, hey, you're not really a tomboy, maybe you're a boy, maybe we have a lot more confused people. Again, I do believe there's a social contagion. Someone said we are sipping some spicy chai tea today. I was gonna say the tea is gonna be good today. I was just like, the tea is infuriating. That's why I refer to it as, because it's a crazy story. It's a crazy story, and I know this isn't just going on in this particular place. I know this isn't the only place, and I want other parents to speak up, other administrators who hear stuff to speak up. But it's insane that there's activist teachers out there who want to indoctrinate kids. I've seen so many videos of teachers that are just like so excited to tell kids about their how they identify in their sexual orientation and stuff like that, and they see it as sweet and stuff, I guess. But like, you shouldn't need like children to affirm who you are. Really, And I think that's why people were so angry about the Blue's Clues thing. Again, I've said that, but they want this little blue dog to affirm them. So when I mentioned, hey, this isn't age appropriate, they took it so offensively. Now you can expose your kids to whatever you want to expose your kids to. Now, if it's deemed really, really weird, of course, CPS will eventually be called. But you have parental discretion for a lot of things. But the point is that these people know that there's parents, they absolutely know how to figure out ways to get around parental consent. They know parents will be upset. So they're like, we're going to stalk your kids' social media. We're going to stalk their Google. We're going to listen to their conversations in the halls. We're going to get them to join this club. And we're not going to keep a log. so we can keep a big charade going. The thing that my dad didn't like the most, the thing that would get us in the most trouble, and I know a lot of people don't like spanking, but that was like we didn't get a lot, but that was when we get it, is when we were being deceptive. That's like when we got it. Because he said if there's ever a situation that arises and you're in some kind of trouble, I need to know that I can trust you. I need to know that you're telling the truth. So deception, that was a bridge too far, and you needed some kind of correction and discipline there. And he would find out. God would tell him. One time he showed up at the playground with some binoculars just to prove how far he'd go. Yeah, you probably can't do that nowadays. People think you're weird and call somebody. But he just wanted people to know, or his kids to know, that daddy was on the scene, that daddy wasn't just going to let you be out there all wild, willy-nilly, and that you're not going to get away with trying to just deceive. So he wanted to keep you on your toes. No, I was a very good child, so it didn't require, I didn't require any stalking. But and there's only, like, I told the story, I guess, yesterday about the box situation. That was one time, and there was like one other time, and then there was another time where I was like, got into like a kind of a fight with my sister. They actually attacked me, the two youngest ones, but they didn't want me to sit up in the middle seat, so they just kind of jumped me in the car, and the car was like rocking, and it was at the church, so people came outside and was like, what's happening? My dad was mad. He was embarrassed. So we got it when we got home. But other than that, usually it's just a good talking to, and I was a pretty guilt-ridden kid or whatever, so normally a glare or a good talking to would be enough. I didn't like to be in trouble. I didn't like to cause trouble or be in trouble. So, but all kids are different. But anyway, deception was a bridge too far. So I can't imagine my dad being in a situation where someone tried to indoctrinate us to come into some kind of club and they're not keeping logs. So for him not to find out, no, I'm telling you, my dad would have found out. oh my gosh. The anger, the rage, but we definitely wouldn't be in that school anymore. You would have the news, all kinds of stuff up there, all kinds of stuff. But parents, you gotta watch your kids. You gotta watch your kids. And as I said, is there gonna be a time when parents just have to be like, you know what, we gotta destroy this whole sort of system, and I'm not gonna let my kids be there. There's a lot of people who've been pulling their kids out since like pandemic thing. I know that's not a good model for a lot of parents because they need to have them both working, or there's some parents who are just one parent. I would encourage you to still look into it anyway. But even still, this stuff needs to be exposed, because there's gonna be some people who will never leave it, and you can't just leave all those kids in the system with all this bonkersness. These teachers need to be let go. Absolutely need to be let go. But they're in unions, and it is not easy to just get rid of teachers. It is not easy. But that is a serious breach of trust. So I'll be following the story, and I'll be keeping you guys up to date on it. I definitely will. Last thing I want to mention before I let you guys go, well, not the very last thing, but the last story I wanted to mention, since I brought it up earlier, is that the CEO of Southwest let everybody know, hey, COVID doesn't really spread on planes. So if you've had to travel in a plane, which this isn't new information, by the way, but they're so on you about wearing the mask on the plane, but there hasn't been a outbreak really on any planes. There's no super spreader planes events that I'm aware of because of the different filtration systems that are up there. People were very concerned at first. They're like, actually, how the technology is and the science is not going to really be an issue. Yet they really, 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 really want you to wear that mask. And these people will be willing to like kick you off if you're wear it down below your nose. And it's just been really crazy. And so we actually got someone speaking some facts about it.
We ever, do you think, be able to get on an airplane without masks?
Well, again, I would echo Colleagues' comments on the quality of the air. It's the statistics I recall is 99.97% of airborne pathogens are captured by the HEPA filtering system, and it's turned over every 2 or 3 minutes. We use UT Southwestern and Stanford School of Medicine. But yeah, I think the case is very strong that masks don't add much, if anything, in the air cabin environment. It's very safe and very high quality compared to any other indoor setting.
So that's what he had to say. So we're here with the leftists on Morning Joe had to think.
Yeah, I just don't know what I think about that. But the comments drew criticism from Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian, later telling CNBC he doesn't agree with those remarks, especially with the spread of the Omicron variant. I'm just not sure I'd be at all comfortable, Joe, would you, getting on a plane if no one was wearing masks? That just...
Yeah, no, Kathy. I mean, listen, we all, for people who've traveled through the years, somebody sneezes a row up, and you and your family have the flu for the next 2 weeks. I mean, the kids aren't going to school. That's one of the things that was so irritating about flying. There were times where, again, because I, fly for a very long time, would fly every week. I'd hear somebody sneezing or coughing in the next row over or the next seat over, and I'd be like, good Lord, I'm going to get sick. Now, that didn't come out of anywhere, and I know that they've improved the airflow, but if they have proof of that, I want to see the medical studies, the documentation. And
we've had COVID for a long time. What you're a journalist, sir? Are you aware of any super spreader events on the planes? Has that been a big thing? Because if that's the case, the masks don't really work anyway. And at this point, people are being stuffed back in it because they want people to go flight A, flight B, and whatnot. And even when there weren't a lot of flights going out, they would make you social distance before you get in the plane. And then when you get in the plane, they're really crowded. So the masks really don't add much of anything. It's just a mental security blanket. And if he really felt that way, he was like, oh, people had the flu and blah, blah, blah. And then I get sick. Okay, but weren't you wearing masks for your whole entire life? Now, in other countries, when you're sick or whatever, in some Asian countries, they do be wearing masks all the time. But a lot of it has to do with actually like in Korea and stuff, just from the pollution and stuff of other places kind of coming in. So they're accustomed to and use it for different reasons. But it's not really helping with the COVID. And so the Delta person be like, well, I don't agree with that with Omicron. Omicron is very mild right now compared to Delta. And COVID is endemic. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So when is someone just going to stand up and say, we need to just get back to normal life, and these masks aren't really going to help? I understand it makes you feel better. It makes you feel better. But you know what? There was a Biden a health official that was talking about how the masks don't really work. And he said, if anything, we should talk about better masking. And unless you are wearing a fitted N95 mask, you are not doing anyone any good, not even yourself. It's just your ego, and it's not worth elevating at all. So, I wouldn't feel comfortable. What? Because why? Because it's a cult. Now, you can wear them if you want to wear them, but you should not be afraid, because especially these people who are double, triple vaxxed, got their boosters and whatnot, ready for a fourth. I can't with these people today. I can't anymore, guys. We got to call it a day. So tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to have my Let's TikTok About It show. So I'm going to be interviewing a young lady whose video I've shared on, I don't know if I played it during the live show before, but I've shared it on my Facebook page. Her TikTok name is Anti-Communist Goth. And she did a TikTok about her time when she went to Planned Parenthood and got an abortion, and how she deeply regrets it. The video went pretty viral, and Live Action News shared it too. So she was brave enough to tell her story. I'm pretty sure I did share it because I talked on the air about how people are coming after her. So she shared her story. She was brave enough to share her story. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow, but we're also going to watch other TikTok videos about lefties with dumb economic takes and all kinds of other stuff. So I've got some good videos planned to show you all. We'll laugh and we'll be annoyed and we'll cry. Maybe we'll cry. We're talking about some pretty serious subjects. So, but other subjects as well. So that's 7:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I'll have her on the channel. Her TikTok name is Anti-Communist Goth, and we're gonna have a great time. So please join me tomorrow night for that. And please visit blacktnews.com. Check out the content that I have on the website, share different articles, and make sure you're liking the page on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, that you're also inviting other people to like it. And if you like what I do here, you appreciate what I do here, please go to blacktnews.com/donate. Like I would love to go to that school and talk to some of those parents and do kind of like a documentary thing. So if you guys would like to help with things like that and grow Black Tea News, I would appreciate if you guys help me along with that journey. And I appreciate people who have done things like that thus far. But we need to grow a little farther, grow more, do it faster, and do things better. So you go to blacktnews.com/donate, and please consider the different merchandise that I have on the website as well. If your kids have read Super Kid, please consider leaving a a review, and look at the other books that I have. They're also on my website. If you go to the merchandise page and look at the other merchandise that I have for Black Tea, like the My Money, My Business shirt, You Are Not That Special mug. Maybe we should get some of those and pass them out to the teachers at that California school. It ticks me off. I don't even have kids, and I'm ticked off. And I just can't imagine if it was my baby. I can't imagine if it was my baby and I got called to the school and say, your girl is now a boy. Here are the pronouns, here are the name, and be supportive. And they freak out, and then the CPS gets called on them. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to do. I need time. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. And I will see you guys next time. As far as next week with going live, I don't believe I'll be going live next week, but I'll have some content out every day and videos every day. So please make sure that you're watching that and you're sharing that. And I guess I probably won't be live till maybe after Christmas. But we'll have some videos and different content. So, and I may do some impromptu lives on Facebook here and there and TikTok. So just make sure that you're following. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next.